common phrase and I'm sure you guys have been hearing a lot these days, is that life just feels meaningless. Many today feel as though we are just wandering through life without any direct aim, or even if we have a direct aim, we question the point of having it at all. As we say to ourselves, even if I achieve my aim in life, what good will it do, or what is it even for, if at the end of it all I just die and become some old relic to my children's grandchildren? Now, some might say that this is an atheistic view, but to that I say that even those who are religious question the point of struggling toward a direct goal or aim, when all that really matters is that we are good people in the end. God doesn't necessarily want us to achieve great things, he merely wants us to live as good, honest people, which in turn allows us all, atheist or religious, to question why do anything? Why even try? And there are multiple great answers to this question, stemming from Fyodor Dostoevsky to Bishop Robert Barron to Jordan Peterson and Jean-Paul Sartre, with each giving different and even opposing answers to this very question. And so in this video, I will go through each of their views on tackling the feeling of meaninglessness, and also why they believe we are feeling it so deeply today. Starting with Fyodor Dostoevsky's most famous novel, Crime and Punishment. As in that book, he depicts a character in Raskolnikov who has lost a sense of vertical depth in his life and soul, and while he has a noble goal of becoming a lawyer, he still doesn't feel tied to anything deep or spiritual. And it's a great depiction of how we can have a grand goal and still feel that life is meaningless. And while we can trick ourselves into thinking that having a goal gives us meaning, we are really just using the goal as a band-aid to place over the hole in our souls. And so without spoiling the novel for those who haven't read it, Raskolnikov descends into a sort of chaos, and finds ways to morally justify bad or immoral actions in his both honourable and noble pursuit of graduating law school and becoming a lawyer. And so in this book, Dostoevsky is arguing that it was because Raskolnikov felt no spiritual meaning in his life that he was able to create his own morals and act in a way that, unbeknownst to him, would cause his life to fall apart and his own community and society at large to fall apart too. And so one of the reasons Dostoevsky wrote this character was to warn the young people of a trend that he was seeing, where less and less people were looking for any sort of spiritual meaning in life, and this was a massive problem in his mind. Because in Dostoevsky's opinion, when the human creates the meaning in his life, it is merely just a human goal, or a means to achieving a human goal. Whereas when we are guided by something deeper, it is a real meaning because it is even deeper than our own minds can comprehend. And so the Dostoevskian approach to the problem of meaninglessness was to try and eradicate the feeling of meaninglessness, or at least combat it, through turning to spirituality or a higher power, which is definitely a solution that resonates with many and is resonating with more and more people today, as stats show that during this time of a lack of meaning, many more young people are converting or reverting to various faiths. However, now let's turn to someone like Jean-Paul Sartre, who in his books had the exact opposite approach and would rather you lean into the feeling of meaninglessness and adopt it as a fact of life rather than as a problem. 2. Jean-Paul Sartre's antidote to meaninglessness. While Dostoevsky's approach was one of finding meaning through turning to spirituality, Sartre would just say, why not create the meaning yourself? As Sartre viewed the feeling of empty meaninglessness as a fact of life, and one that we will all feel at some point, and so it is up to the individual to create the meaning in their life and carve out their own path and reason to live. He said, we must take total responsibility for our actions and our future. So in Sartre's mind, the world, the meaning, the depth of life starts and ends with the human, and ultimately with ourselves. And so if Sartre were to give the antidote to Dostoevsky's character of Raskolnikov, he would say your life descends into chaos because of self-deception and not a lack of meaning. Raskolnikov didn't carefully analyze his goals and his choices enough to make the right decision that he could truly justify in his heart and live with. It was because of that lack of ownership over himself that he fell apart and tore apart his community as well, and it wasn't because of a lack of spirituality. And so simply put, Sartre was a kind of cocktail-drinking Jocko Willink figure who put a lot of value on taking extreme ownership over your life and carving out meaning, freedom, and wholeness through that discipline and through that ownership. However, a contrasting view to Sartre's antidote to meaninglessness is one held by the prominent Catholic figure Bishop Robert Barron, who would say having endless choice over the meaning of your life and being able to create your own meaning at will isn't even freedom at all, as we feel restricted by having too many choices, but rather feel free when we discipline down our choices to just a select few. And the way that he would recommend we find our meaning in life is to look at what we love, as God is love and speaks to us through love, so God is telling us quite literally who we are and what our purpose is through what we inherently love.
What's the meaning of our existence here on earth? What's the meaning of life?
Love. God is love, and the purpose of my life is to become God's friend, and that means I'm more conformed to love. And so my life finds meaning in the measure that I become more on fire with the divine love. I'm like the burning bush, is to become more and more radiant with the presence of God. That's what gives life meaning.
3. Bishop Barron's solution to Raskolnikov's problem. In a brilliant podcast between Bishop Barron and actor Ethan Hawke, they quite literally tackle the very question that Raskolnikov is tackling in Crime and Punishment, where Ethan Hawke's daughter Maya was feeling a lack of meaning and a lack of purpose in her life, and she was following more of a Sartre-esque approach to life, and was trying to figure out what her true purpose is herself, yet she felt pulled to too many things, and felt anxious over what the right choice was, because she loved singing, she loved acting, she loved writing, and wasn't sure what avenue she really wanted to focus on and go down. And here's what Ethan Hawke's and Bishop Barron's answer to her was.
A lot of people go around the world and they go like, who am I? I don't know who I am. And if you want to know who you are, you can make a case to be made, a very compelling case, that God is telling you who you are by what you love.
Yeah.
And if you get close to what you love expands. Mm-hmm. And in the pursuit of excellence, in any talent that you are given, that everybody is given, in the expression of excellence at it, you do honor to your maker. When she was young and you were thinking like, all right, I really want to be a writer and I really want to be an actor. I love music and I have to choose. And the truth is you don't have to choose. You need to work on yourself and let it take care of itself.
And so in this more Catholic philosophy and antidote to the meaninglessness that Raskolnikov and Maya Hawke are feeling, it is more about listening to the voice of God through what you love, and by endlessly and curiously following that string of love, you will continue to fall deeper and deeper into meaning, and that hole in your soul will start to fill up with the abundance of purpose that you always wanted to find. And so to bring it back to the depiction of modern meaninglessness that we find in Dostoevsky's Raskolnikov, Bishop Barron would probably argue that he descended into chaos because he stopped following what he loved and started to try and plot and scheme. He stopped listening to the voice of God or the voice of the Spirit that speaks to him through love, and started listening to the voice of his head, which is therefore a human voice, and because Catholics believe that humans are all sinners, the second we only listen to our own voices and not the divine's, we will fall prey to more and more chaos. Which leads us to the final antidote to Raskolnikov's Meaningless that I wanted to cover, which is Jordan B. Peterson's, as his is a hybrid of almost all of them, as he diverts from the entirely spiritual view and from the entirely human view, as he focuses on taking responsibility of the life in front of you, but not worrying so much about the human freedom. 4. Jordan Peterson's antidote to Raskolnikov's meaninglessness. Jordan Peterson's most famous phrase is to quote-unquote clean your room, but that one phrase pretty much sums up his antidote to meaninglessness entirely, as he said the second you stop worrying about meaninglessness and worrying about your freedom, and you just start taking care of what's around you, being your room, your job, your health, your posture, and your family, then all of a sudden your world will fall into place, which is what makes his approach a hybrid between Sartre's and the spiritual approaches of Dostoevsky and Bishop Barron, as he rather chooses a path that allows you to get to the point where you can start to follow what you love, but before you get there, you need to take care of yourself and stop worrying about the emptiness you feel or the lack of freedom that you may be feeling. In essence, his approach is a practical approach to tuning your receptors to catch the signal of meaning that the world is trying to send to you, because you can't receive that signal if you're out of tune, meaning that if your room is a mess, your body is out of whack, and you have no discipline, you won't be able to tell what direction the world is trying to push you in, and you won't be able to find out what your true purpose is. And so it's quite fitting to end on Peterson's philosophy here, because the character of Raskolnikov is depicted as someone who was living in squalor, so perhaps if Raskolnikov just got up off his chair and sorted out his room and his hair, perhaps he wouldn't have gone as crazy as he ended up going, and would have graduated law school and done society a great service by working as a noble lawyer. Now, as always, I recommend you do your own research on meaninglessness and choose what approach you feel in your heart serves you best, and what approach you really think would have helped Raskolnikov in Dostoevsky's novel, but I hope in the various approaches that I have shared with you in this video, you were able to pick up a few things and see the novel of Crime and Punishment in a different light. And let me know what your thoughts are down below, where you agree, where you disagree, and if you liked the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, take care.